Hello everyone and welcome back to Nocturnal Narrative Studio. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know which country you're listening from. Without further ado, let's begin the story. Some nights I still hear the keyboard clicking on its own. Even with my laptop closed, even with the power cut, I swear I hear it. And the strangest part? It's always the same rhythm, like someone typing one word over and over. Run, run, run. I've moved 3 times since everything happened. Switched accounts, tossed my devices, but it's still following me. And if you're reading this, it might follow you too. I never believed the stories. Not until it was my name on the screen. I used to moderate a subreddit that tracked disturbing content online. Nothing illegal, at least not intentionally. It was mostly fringe conspiracy stuff, deep web myths, and those eerie found footage clips that float around once in a while. You'd be amazed how many people treat the internet like a haunted forest and still go poking around like nothing can touch them. I was one of them. Thought I was above it all. Thought I had control. That's the dumbest thing I've ever thought. We called the subreddit Eyes in the Dark, a half-joke nod to some old creepypasta, but the community grew fast. Too fast. We had tens of thousands of members in just a few months. Most of them were just bored or looking for weirdness, but a few, they were different. They would post things that felt wrong, like messages with no context, grainy screenshots of pages that didn't load anymore, coordinates to places that don't show up on Google Maps. That's when I started keeping a logbook offline. Something about it felt too unstable to track digitally. One night we got a thread from a new user, account barely an hour old. The post was titled, "I will upload 1 crime a day until I'm stopped." At first I thought it was another edgy teenager, or someone trying to farm karma. But when I clicked in, there was a video. Low resolution, black and white security footage. It showed a man tied to a chair in what looked like a storage unit. Nothing happened for the first 20 seconds, then the camera flickered and he was gone. Like he'd never been there. Only the rope was left dangling from the chair. I removed the post immediately, banned the account. But within 5 minutes it was reposted from another new user. Same video, same title. And when I tried to ban that account, the screen froze. My mod tools stopped working. I had to force close my browser. When I logged back in, the post was gone. But my inbox had a new message. No subject, no sender, just a text. Ban me again, and I'll start with you. I laughed at first, but I didn't reply. I didn't even tell the other mods, I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to sound paranoid, maybe I already felt watched. The next night I got another message from the same blank profile. This time it said, "You have 7 days." I screenshotted it and saved it to my hard drive, planning to report it later. But when I went to the folder, the file had already been renamed, automatically. It now read, "Do not open." I checked the properties. Last modified time was 3:17 a.m. I wasn't awake at that time. My laptop had been off, or at least I thought it had been. 3 days later, one of our co-mods, Andrea, ghosted the group chat. Total silence. That wasn't like her. She was the most obsessive of all of us. Checked every flagged post, every DM, every troll. We figured she just burned out. But then her account started posting again. Short replies and random threads. Still watching. This is how it begins. Not long now. All from her profile. But the IP didn't match. None of it made sense. The messages stopped when we tried to contact her family. Turns out they hadn't seen her in over a week. Reported missing. That's when I remembered the username from the first post, the one who uploaded the chair video. I checked the logs. The account was gone, wiped clean, no recovery trace. But I did find one post they'd commented on before being banned, an old thread titled "Dead Mod Walking." It was 2 years old. The last reply on that thread, dated after I banned them, just said, "You're next." Same username, same pattern of speech. I copied the comment, pasted it into a notepad. and just stared at it for hours. That night, my laptop powered on by itself. Middle of the night. No updates, no scheduled tasks. Just turned on and opened a browser window to our subreddit. The banner image had changed. Instead of our normal logo, it was a black screen with red text. Moderator 1, logged out. Moderator 2, logged out. Moderator 3, pending. I was number 3. I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't. I felt sick, like something had already decided. What came next? Like my choices weren't really mine anymore, I went to Andrea's apartment the next morning. Just drove there on instinct. Her mailbox was stuffed, lights off, car still in the lot. I knocked for 10 minutes. Nothing. Then, I checked the door. It wasn't locked. I pushed it open and the smell hit me. Not death, not rot. It was colder than that. Metallic. Like an old coin pressed to your tongue. The apartment was spotless except for the bedroom. Every inch of the walls was covered in printed screenshots from the subreddit. My posts, my comments, my mod logs. Someone had been printing them out, taping them one by one. In the middle of the room was her laptop, still open, still logged in to Reddit. On the screen was one message. He's here. That's all. No user tag, no reply button. Just static filling the rest of the window. And then the screen turned black, and the keyboard typed one word, again and again. Run, run, run. I didn't wait. I ran. I didn't take the laptop, didn't tell the cops the whole story, just said she was gone and left out the rest. But I kept wondering, how did it know I was going to come looking? I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that bedroom. Those walls covered with my words, the quiet hum of Andrea's laptop, and that message staring back at me like a final warning. He's here. But who the hell was he? I wasn't sure if I was supposed to take it literally, like there was someone physically in her apartment, or if he was something else, something less human. The next day, I skipped work. I told myself I just needed time to reset, to put some distance between myself and the mess. But when I opened my browser to clear out my saved tabs, Reddit was already pulled up. Not just the home page, our subreddit. And someone had posted under my name a long post titled, "I saw her leave her body." I hadn't written it, I swear. But it read just like something I would have written. Same tone, same pacing. The post even used a nickname only Andrea called me in private messages. That's when I started shaking. I tried to delete it, but the delete button was grayed out. It said I didn't have permission. I was the top mod. I always had permission. The post had already gotten hundreds of upvotes and was spreading to other subreddits. I checked the comment section and saw something worse. People were believing it. They were responding with things like, "Chilling, man. I had something similar happen." Or, "I remember that thread. It's back." Someone replied, "Modi. 3, are you ready yet?" That one had a skull emoji next to it. I didn't recognize the username, clicked on it. The profile didn't exist. I reached out to the only other mod still active, Kyle. He was the newest, hadn't even been on the team for more than a few weeks. I kept it simple in the message. Just told him something weird was going on with the mod logs and asked if he'd made any changes. He replied in less than a minute, "No, but I saw Andrea's profile go green a few hours ago, like she was online. Isn't she?" He didn't finish the sentence. I called him, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. A few minutes. Later, I got a message from his account. "Don't try again. They listen through calls." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Was that him? Or the same thing that had taken over Andrea's? I unplugged my router, shut down my laptop, took the battery out, and for a while, I just sat on the floor, staring at the dead machine like it was a bomb. I didn't know what else to do. I turned on the TV for background noise, anything to feel normal. But even that didn't help. Every channel was glitching. Every station flickered, except one. A blank screen with scrolling white text at the bottom. I didn't catch all of it. Just the last line. If you see this, it's already watching you. The screen snapped back to static, then to normal broadcast like nothing had happened. That night I dreamt of Andrea. She was standing at the foot of my bed, her eyes glazed over like she was half asleep or sedated. She whispered something. I couldn't hear it clearly. It was like her voice was on a different frequency, muffled by an invisible wall. But I caught one word. Doorway. I woke up with a nosebleed, gasping for breath. My phone was on the floor next to the bed, though. I'd left it in the living room charging. The screen was lit. One new message. From Andrea's number. Just one word. Soon. The next morning I went to check the subreddit again. I had to know what else was happening. The banner had changed again. Now it read, Moderator 3 logged in. My picture, my real face, was in the corner of the banner. A photo I never uploaded. One that looked like it had been taken through my bedroom window. I slammed the laptop shut. I wanted to scream, to throw it out the window, but I couldn't move. I felt paralyzed. Not by fear exactly. More like being watched by something that wanted me to feel afraid. Like it fed on it. Later that day, Kyle's name vanished from our mod list. Just disappeared without warning. I checked his profile. It had been wiped clean. Not deactivated. Deleted. Not even cached results on Google. His email bounced. No trace. But just before I closed the tab, a message box popped up on the screen. No sender name. No icon. Just black background with red letters. Moderator 3 status changed. It blinked once, then disappeared. When I tried to refresh, I was logged out of Reddit entirely. I went outside to clear my head. That was the first time I noticed the black van across the street. No plates. Windows tinted pitch black. I hadn't seen it before, but the tires were muddy, and the engine clicked like it had just shut off. No one got out. I stared at it for a while, then walked away. But even as I moved down the street, I could feel eyes on me. And when I turned back, the van was gone. Not driving away, just gone. Like it had never been there. Like I'd imagined it. But I didn't imagine the tire tracks across my driveway. That night, I stayed at a hotel. Used cash. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. I turned off my phone, left it in the car, and kept the room cold and dark. Just me, a deadbolt, and silence. For a while, I thought it worked. I even fell asleep. But at 3:17 a.m. I woke up to the sound of typing. Not mine. The desk lamp was on. My laptop, which I never opened, was glowing. On the screen was a new Reddit thread, draft mode open, being written in real time. My username, my face in the corner, and the words, "This is how I disappear." I slammed the laptop shut and threw it across the room. It clattered against the wall and landed hard on the carpet. I stood there shaking, staring at it like it was some kind of living thing. I didn't open it again. I couldn't. But the damage was done. The words were already burned into my memory. This is how I disappear. I didn't even write them, but they felt like mine. Like they'd always been waiting for me to catch up. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I sat in the corner of the hotel room with the bathroom light on, hugging my knees, just waiting for something to move, to make a sound, to come through the walls or the TV or the vents. Nothing came, but the silence was loud, pressing, like something holding its breath. At dawn, I grabbed my stuff, paid in cash, and drove back toward town. I knew I wasn't safe, but I didn't know where else to go. The only person left who might understand was gone. Kyle, Andrea, the other mods, all gone. And now, it was just me. I pulled into a gas station off the highway, one of those old, dying ones with a single pump and a busted sign. I needed coffee. Or maybe I just needed a witness. Someone to look at me and say I still existed. The guy behind the counter barely looked up when I came in. But when I handed him the money, he froze. His eyes locked onto mine like he recognized me. "You that guy from Reddit?" he asked. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, back. He blinked a few times. "Your face, it's been showing up in weird places. My brother saw it on a stream. Said you were next." I backed out of that store so fast I nearly forgot my keys. Back in the car, I started driving with no plan, just miles. I passed towns, trees, old motels. At some point, the radio started picking up static, even on the FM stations. Then between bursts of static, I heard a voice. Not a DJ, not music. A flat voice, almost mechanical, but not fake. Real. Too real. "Moderator 3, it said, slow and clear. "Your time has begun." Then more static. Then silence. I turned the radio off, but the silence in the car was worse. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone, or something, sitting in the back seat. Eventually, I stopped at a public library. It was quiet, safe, neutral. I used one of the public terminals to log into Reddit through a guest browser. My hands were sweating the whole time. When the front page loaded, my heart nearly stopped. My profile picture had changed again. This time it was a photo of me sleeping. In the hotel bed, the one I never took. Someone else had. And it was posted, under my account, with the caption, "He sleeps before the vanishing." Hundreds of upvotes, comments asking, "Is this ARG?" Others saying, "This is happening again." Someone even posted a timestamp, 3:17 a.m., same as before. That damn time again. Then, the keyboard started typing on its own. In the comment box under the post, it began to type, "Part 3, he's losing track of reality." I yanked the power cord from the wall. The monitor went black, but I could still hear the faint tapping of keys after the power was gone. I didn't wait. I ran out of the library and left the town behind. Didn't even stop for gas. I just kept driving until the signal bars on my phone disappeared completely, out past where the maps still update, somewhere with no street names, just space. I found a rundown roadside motel. No cameras, no credit cards, just an old man who gave me a key and didn't ask for a name. The room smelled like bleach and old leather. I locked the door, pushed a chair under the knob, and sat on the bed staring at the cracked ceiling. I didn't turn on any lights, just stayed in the dark, listening. Listening for what, exactly? I don't know. I just knew that whatever had started with that first Reddit post wasn't stopping. It was growing, spreading. Like a virus that didn't just infect accounts, it rewrote people, erased them from the inside out. Somewhere around midnight, I opened my laptop again, I don't know why. Some twisted part of me had to see what was next. The homepage loaded slowly, almost like it was waiting for me. And there it was, a new thread posted under my name. Final entry pending. No text, no image, just a ticking countdown, 00 Pindo 2, 47 and dropping. I stared at it, frozen. 2 minutes to what? I didn't know. But my pulse spiked. My breath came short. I slammed the laptop shut again, but the countdown kept playing in my head. I could feel it, like it had sunk under my skin. I turned off every light, unplugged every device, even pulled the batteries out of the TV remote. I sat in the bathroom with the door locked and a towel shoved under the crack. And still, I heard it, the typing, coming from the main room, just slow and steady. Then a voice, soft, whispering my name. My real name, not my username, the one I never posted anywhere. The voice said, "He's almost ready." And then silence. Not even the bugs outside, just a vacuum of sound that made me want to scream. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't open the door. But in the morning, when I finally stepped out, there was a flash drive sitting on the table, unmarked, just there, waiting. And scratched into the table, like with a nail or a blade, were 3 words. "Don't delete this." I left the motel that morning without touching the drive. But part of me still wonders, what happens if I plug it in? I should have thrown it into a river. I should have smashed it, buried it, burned it. Anything but what I actually did. I kept the flash drive. Just kept it. Slipped it into my glove compartment like it was just another USB, like it didn't weigh more than the whole car. I told myself I wouldn't open it, but I also knew I wasn't done running yet. Deep down, I felt like it didn't matter what I did anymore. Like every step I took was one it had already planned. I drove with no direction, just avoiding major roads, avoiding people, avoiding screens. I covered my mirrors with tape and tossed my phone out the window 100 miles back. But none of it helped. Every gas station TV showed static when I walked in. Every receipt printer spit out messages instead of totals. Short phrases like, "He's not gone," or "Moderator, 3 time loops." I tried not to look at them, but how to? You not read something that feels like it was written for your eyes only? I began to feel like maybe I was already gone, just echoing through the wires now. Eventually I stopped at a library again, not because I needed internet, but because it was the only place that still felt real. Books, paper, dust, things with edges and smells and silence that didn't hum. I sat in the far back corner away from windows and opened a book at random just to remind myself that normal things still existed. But the book I chose, a worn-out anthology of ghost stories, had been hollowed out. Inside was another flash drive, same shape, same black plastic, no label, no reason. I backed away, heart thudding. That wasn't random, that was placed. For me, I didn't take that one. I left it right there and walked out without checking out a thing. But the unease followed me. In the parking lot, someone had written, "Part 4 begins" on my windshield in red marker. I wiped it off with shaking hands, but the letters didn't fully come off. I could still see the outline, like they'd been burned into the glass. I got in and drove until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Pulled over in a field beneath a cluster of dying trees. No lights, no signals, just dirt and cold wind. That night I had another dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream at all. I was standing in a room that looked like my childhood bedroom, except the windows were blacked out and the posters were wrong. Twisted versions of things I loved as a kid. My old computer was humming. On the screen was Reddit, but it looked older, like the version from a decade ago. My profile was open and under it was a message I didn't type. Moderator 3 has joined the archive. I turned around and someone else was in the room. Andrea, or something, wearing her skin. Her face moved wrong, like it had forgotten how to smile. I woke up with the sound of knocking. Not on a door, on my window, the driver's side. 3 slow knocks. I sat up fast and grabbed the steering wheel like that could protect me. The knocking stopped. I didn't look. I couldn't. I stayed frozen until the sun rose. When I finally got the courage to check, there was nothing there. No prints, no footprints in the dirt. Just a note tucked under my wiper blade. Last chance. Still written in that same red marker. Still shaking, I opened the glove box and stared at the original flash drive. Still there. Still waiting. Still heavy. Against every instinct I had left, I drove to a truck stop diner that offered free Wi-Fi and sat at the far corner table near the window. The waitress looked tired, real. Her name tag said Jean, and she called me Hun when she poured coffee. That small kindness nearly broke me. I opened my laptop again. For the first time in days, the browser loaded without glitches. No static, no flickers. Reddit came up and my account was locked. The message across the top read, "Final upload in progress. Do not interrupt." Below it, a blinking progress bar and a single post on the front page. Moderator 3, archive. Opening now. I couldn't look away. The post had over 20,000 upvotes in under 10 minutes, but no one was commenting. No one was sharing it. It was like the thread existed in a vacuum. I tried to scroll down, but the screen froze on one image, a still from a live stream. Me, sitting at that very table, in the diner, right then. The same angle, same lighting, except the timestamp said it had been uploaded 20 minutes ago, before I arrived. before I even turned on the laptop. I looked up, scanning the diner. No one had a phone out, no cameras, and Jean just smiled and refilled my cup like nothing was wrong. I whispered, "Who's watching me?" under my breath, not expecting an answer, but someone behind me, close, enough for breath on my neck, said, "We all are." I spun around, but there was no one there. The booth was empty. The next table over, too. Jean didn't seem to notice anything. Just smiled again, humming something soft under her breath. A song I recognized but couldn't name. I didn't eat, didn't drink, just sat there until the laptop screen changed again. This time it said, "Moderator 3, archive complete." And the tab closed on its own. I checked my account again and it was gone. Not just suspended, erased. No profile, no threads, no comments. But the subreddit? Still there, still active. The banner had changed once more. This time it read, Moderator 3, Legacy Mode, Moderator 4, Logging in Soon. And beneath it, a single user comment, "You passed it on, just like the others." I slammed the laptop shut again, heart pounding. What did they mean, passed it on? Who was next? Had I doomed someone else just by running? Or was that the game all along? I left the diner and didn't look back. I drove until my fuel tank was dry and then I walked. No destination, just away. From screens, from signals, from anything that could pull me back. But deep down I knew it wasn't over. I knew something had been set in motion that couldn't be stopped. And worst of all, I started to hear the typing again. Not from a machine, from inside my own head. Like keys, tapping the inside of my skull. It's been 5 days since I last touched a computer. I've been sleeping in my car, living off vending machine snacks and gas station coffee. No screens, no signals. I even ripped the radio out of the dashboard just in case, but none of it helped. The typing, it's not stopping. Even with silence, all around me I hear it, steady, patient, like a metronome tapping behind my eyes. Sometimes when it gets loud, I swear I can feel my fingers twitching along with it. At night, I've started to see things, shapes in the trees, faces in the rearview mirror that don't belong to me. It's worse when I pass any sort of tech, even a traffic light. They flicker when I approach. One time, an old payphone rang as I walked by. Just once. No one else on the street. I didn't answer. But I stood there staring at it, waiting for it to ring again. It never did. But now every time I close my eyes, I hear it. That tone. That single ring. It's like a warning. I stopped at an abandoned rest area yesterday. I just needed to breathe. Clear my head. There was a boarded-up visitor center, half buried, in overgrowth. But when I peeked through the broken glass, I saw light, a faint glow flickering like a candle. I should have walked away, but of course I didn't. I pried the door open, stepped inside, and saw the glow was coming from a laptop. Just sitting there on the dusty counter, plugged into nothing, fully charged, open to Reddit, logged into my old account, the one that was deleted. My profile picture had changed again. This time it wasn't a photo of me, it was a drawing, a hand-sketched version of my face, exaggerated, hollowed out, eyes too wide. Underneath it, Moderator 3, rest stop upload begins. There were no posts, no threads, just that single caption, blinking like a heartbeat. And then I noticed something on the floor beneath the counter, a journal, someone else's. I opened it slowly, page after page of handwritten notes. Some were drawings, others were just repeated sentences over and over. The signal lives in us. He found me through the keys. Moderator 2 never logged out. That last one hit me like a punch in the chest. Moderator 2, Andrea. Was this her journal? Had she come here too? I flipped to the last page. It only said, "He doesn't need the web. He is the web." Then a rough sketch of a human head with wires coming out of the mouth, plugging into a laptop. I backed away from the counter and ran. I don't even remember how I made it back to the car. But that journal, I took it. and now I don't know why. Maybe I'm supposed to pass it on too. Back in the car, I opened the glove box again. The first flash drive was still there. I stared at it for what felt like hours. I knew what I was supposed to do. I had to see what was on it. Whatever was driving this. I needed to look it in the face. Or maybe I'd already lost. Maybe looking was part of the trap. But either way, I was tired of hiding. That night, I drove to a closed-down strip mall where the Wi-Fi still leaked out from an old bookstore. I plugged in the flash drive, opened the only folder, one file, no name, just a black thumbnail. I clicked it. The screen went dark for a second, then static, then an image slowly formed. A room. Plain. Empty. White walls. One desk. One chair. And someone sitting in it, their back turned. The image was grainy, hard to make out, but I recognized the jacket. It was mine. The person in the chair stood up slowly, turned toward the camera, and it was me. Not just someone who looked like me. Me. Same scar on the cheek, same tired eyes, same clothes I was wearing right then. And the video was live. It said so in the corner. Live feed, file, you. I yanked the drive out, but the video kept playing. The laptop wouldn't shut down. I slammed it closed, stuffed it under the seat, and just sat there, breathing hard. My reflection in the windshield didn't match my movements. It lagged, twitched, blinked twice when I didn't. My stomach turned. That's when I noticed something even worse. There was a second feed playing, on the back of the seat like it was being projected from inside the car. Another video, another chair, another version of me. Except this one was tied down, struggling, screaming. But the sound was silent, just static, just typing. I stumbled out of the car and fell to my knees on the pavement. I tried to throw up, but nothing came. I felt like I was being peeled away, like the version of me that used to exist was slipping off and something else was taking shape beneath it. I looked at my hands. They didn't feel like mine anymore. Every fingerprint pulsed like circuitry. I don't know how long I sat there just staring at them. But when I finally looked up, I saw another van. Same kind as before. Black. No plates. Only this time the door was open and inside I saw a glowing screen with a countdown. For 17 or 16 or 15. I didn't get closer. I didn't need to. I knew what it meant. Something was finishing. Something had reached the end. Or maybe the beginning. The typing in my head got louder, faster. I turned and ran. No destination. Just away, always away. But it doesn't matter. Because I think wherever I go now it'll be waiting. Not on the internet. Not in the wires. In me. In the space where fear grows quiet, where thought turns to static. And I think that's where it lives, and I don't remember falling asleep. But when I woke up, I was lying in the back seat of the car with the laptop open beside me. The screen was dark except for one word blinking in white. Transfer. My hands were on the keyboard, stiff and pale like I'd been typing all night. My wrists ached. My nails were cracked. I checked the keys. They were sticky with blood. Not a lot. Just enough to know something had happened while I wasn't really me. Something had started. Or maybe something had ended and I was just waking up on the other side of it. There was a USB plugged in again. Not the flash drive, something new. A data stick I didn't recognize. I pulled it out in a panic and tossed it onto the floorboard. But the screen didn't change. It still said transfer. No progress bar, no timer, just that word, staring back at me like a label on my forehead. I turned off the laptop, held the power button until it shut down with a hard click. But even then, the word lingered, not on the screen, in my head. Like a whisper with no voice, I drove. Hours passed, or maybe just minutes. Time started to break apart. I'd check the clock and it'd jump. Sometimes forward, sometimes back. I saw the same gas station 3 times in a row on what should have been a straight road. I passed a town sign that changed every time I blinked. First Hawthorne, then Glasgow, then no exit. That one stayed. for 3 miles, then vanished completely. The road behind me disappeared. I should have felt scared, but mostly, I felt tired. Like something inside me was slowly powering down, waiting for a new command. I stopped at a rundown RV park, empty except for one trailer with a crooked satellite dish. I knocked on the door and an old woman opened it. Her eyes were cloudy but sharp behind the cataracts. She didn't ask my name, just said, "It's in you too, isn't it?" My mouth went dry. I nodded. I don't even know why. She let me and handed me a chipped mug of something warm and said, "The others never made it past 6. I asked her what that meant. She just laughed. 6 uploads. After that, there's no going back. I wanted to run, but I stayed. I needed to hear more. She told me there used to be dozens of us, people who stumbled across the archive by accident. Most of them never knew what it was until it was too late. But some of them tried to fight back, tried to warn others. That's how the Reddit thread started. That's how the usernames came to be tagged and sorted. She said it catalogs us, tags us, files us into something it can play with. Then she pointed to her laptop, an ancient brick of a machine, and I saw it, my name, my face, the most recent entry. Moderator 3, in progress. I backed away from her. "Why do you have that?" She just looked at me and said, "Because I used to be moderator 1. I didn't believe her. I didn't want to. But the way she spoke, the way her hands trembled just slightly when the screen refreshed, it felt too real. She said I had 2 choices left. 1, finish the process and pass it on, become part of the machine. 2, go dark, total blackout. No tech, no contact, no signal. But she warned me, it always finds you, even without the net." I left her trailer without saying another word. Got back in the car and drove, the mug still in my hands. I didn't even realize I'd taken it. That night I parked deep in the woods, no GPS, no lights. I buried the laptop under a fallen tree and smashed my phone with a rock until the screen bled colors. I tossed both into the brush and walked for hours with nothing but moonlight. The typing didn't stop, but it got quieter, duller, like it was adjusting, watching from a distance, letting me think I had control. That's the worst part. It wants you to think you're still choosing. But the path was set the moment I clicked that first post. At sunrise, I found an abandoned fire watch tower. I climbed to the top and looked out over the trees, trying to remember what my life felt like before all this. It was hard. My memories felt rearranged. Some of them had gaps. Others had been replaced. I remembered birthdays that didn't happen. A brother I never had. A town I've never been to but can picture in perfect detail. I checked my wallet. My license was still there, but the name was wrong. The face was still mine, but younger, cleaner, not tired and cracked and thinning, like the face I now saw in every reflection. Then I heard it. A low buzz, the kind you feel in your teeth. The tower's radio, dead for years, clicked on. Static first, then the voice. Not the same as before. This one was deeper, slower, like dragging metal. "You're not done yet, Moderator 3. I tried to shut it off, but the knob spun on its own. "One more upload," it hissed. "Then you can sleep." I wanted to scream, but I just sat down and stared at the floor, because I finally understood. This wasn't about stopping it. It was about finishing my part. And I had one thing left to give. I took the old woman's mug, smashed it against the wall, and used a shard to carve into the wooden floorboards. Moderator 4, don't trust the logs. Then I walked down the tower steps and didn't look back. The forest swallowed me whole. The sky turned gray. The typing grew steady again, louder this time, like it was clapping, applauding. The game was nearly over. Or maybe I was just now catching up to where it began. I don't know how long I was in those woods. Time felt soft, like everything folded in on itself. I stopped keeping track after the second night when the moon changed shape twice in the same sky. My breath fogged, in warm air. The trees shifted when I blinked. The deeper I went, the less things made sense. I'd find paths I'd already walked, objects I never picked up in my pockets, and scraps of paper tucked in tree bark, each with the same message. One upload left. Like the forest was trying to remind me I still had work to do. Eventually, I stumbled into an old ranger station, half-eaten by moss and rot. The windows were broken. The lights didn't work, but the battery-powered radio inside was glowing red. And next to it sat a notebook. No name, no date, just entries written in dozens of different handwritings. Every few pages, one phrase kept repeating, "Moderator 3 is almost full." I don't know how it got there. I didn't write any of it. But as I flipped through the book, I started seeing familiar lines, things I'd said, things I'd thought, private moments word for word on the page. Like the forest, or whatever was behind this, had been recording me all along. I wanted to scream, but my voice cracked when I tried. It was like something was pressing down on my chest, slow and heavy, keeping me quiet. I staggered to the desk, found a rusted-out flashlight, and sat in the corner with it clutched in my lap like a weapon. Then I noticed something else. Carved into the wall behind the desk were names, Reddit usernames, hundreds of them, crossed out one by one. At the very bottom, freshly scratched, was mine. Not crossed out yet. Not yet. I stayed there until nightfall, hoping the dark would hide me. But as soon as the sun dropped, the radio crackled. The red light turned green, and the same deep voice returned, distorted like a warped cassette. Transfer window open, final upload starting. Then louder, "Do not resist." The words hit me like a migraine. My ears rang. My teeth ached. The flashlight in my hand blinked once, twice, then died. And in the reflection of the radio's glass, I saw a second face behind mine, watching, waiting, grinning without lips. I ran, out into the woods. Didn't know where. Didn't care. The air was thick, like wading through fog made of static. My feet barely touched the ground. Every time I passed a tree, I swore I saw wires growing up the bark like veins. The forest wasn't real anymore. It was him. It had turned into an extension of whatever had been chasing me, whatever had entered me. And somewhere in the blur of shadows and breathless panic, I felt something slip inside. A click, soft and final, like a key turning in the base of my spine. I collapsed in a clearing with no stars overhead, just a wide black sky like a screen waiting to load. I looked up and whispered, "What do you want from me?" And for the first time I heard it not in the world, but inside my own mouth. A voice that wasn't mine answered back, "To finish what you started." My arms moved on their own. I pulled the laptop, the one I buried, from my backpack. I don't remember putting it there. I don't even remember digging it back up. But there it was, clean, untouched, humming softly like it had never left my side. It booted up with no delay, no login, no desktop. Just a single window that filled the screen, a blinking cursor in a text field. The title bar read, "Last." Moderator entry. I didn't want to type, but my fingers moved anyway, slow, careful, like something was guiding them. And as I watched the letters form, I realized I wasn't typing a story. I was typing a warning. The exact same one I'd read back in Andrea's apartment. Word for word, my final post, already written in the past. And the moment I hit the last period, the screen flashed white. When my vision cleared, there was a countdown again. This one started at 00:00:03 and ticked down without sound. Just a pulse. Then the words, "Transfer complete." Then nothing. Not black, not static. Just stillness. The trees had stopped, swaying. The bugs had stopped buzzing. The world went mute. I felt weightless, like I was floating inside my own skin. And then I saw it. The fourth mod name, listed right beneath mine. Someone new. Someone online. Someone who'd just joined the subreddit an hour ago. I don't know how I saw it. I wasn't connected to anything. No signal. No Wi-Fi. But it popped into my vision like an alert. Moderator 4. Logging in. And right beneath it, Moderator 3. Logout confirmed. My body went cold. Not with fear. With absence. Like something essential had just left me. Or maybe, like I had finally become a part of the machine. No longer hunted. No longer resisting. Just filed away. Tagged. Archived. Ready to rest? I stood up, walked back to the road, and waited. For what? I don't know. A ride? A sign? An ending? All I know is the typing had stopped, and in its place was silence that felt like sleep, long dreamless sleep. The first thing I noticed was that I couldn't feel time anymore. Minutes passed like hours, hours like seconds. The road I stood on didn't seem to lead anywhere, just melted into the horizon like ink and water. No cars passed, no wind moved. It was like the world had gone flat, like someone had paused everything, except me. I wasn't cold, but I wasn't warm either. I wasn't tired, but my body sagged like it had been through centuries. And beneath it all, one thought pressed against my skull. You finished. You're free. But somehow I didn't believe it. I walked. Where? I couldn't say. The world around me felt like the shell of something real. Trees with no roots, shadows with no source. I tried humming a song to break the silence, but nothing came out. My voice was gone. Not hoarse, not strained. Gone. Like it had been deleted. I ran my fingers across my throat, but even my skin felt blank. My scars were missing, the mole near my ear, all the tiny flaws that marked me as me, like I'd been overwritten by a version just close enough to fool the mirrors. Eventually I found a building, a squat concrete cube with no windows and one rusted door. No signs, no lights, just there, waiting. I opened it. Inside, it was colder than it should have been. Shelves lined the walls filled with unlabeled tapes, stacked hard drives, yellowing file folders. It smelled like old electricity and dust. And in the center of the room sat a single chair facing a monitor. The screen was on, flickering, blank. And there, on the chair, was a piece of paper, handwritten, 4 words. Welcome to the stack. I didn't want to sit down, but I did. The screen lit up. A new interface I'd never seen before. Not Reddit, not any browser. Just rows and rows of names, thousands, tens of thousands. Some crossed out, some highlighted. All tagged, viewed, uploaded, pending, failed, void. And then mine. Not my username. My real name. My real face. The version of me I hadn't seen since before this started. I clicked on it. The profile opened and it showed my logs. Everything. Every keystroke. Every deleted draft. Every whisper I made in the dark. Things I hadn't said out loud but thought, alone, in silence. It had them all. The screen blinked. Then a prompt. Would you like to begin review? I didn't click anything, but the interface moved anyway. My memory started playing, like scenes from a movie I didn't remember filming. Andrea's apartment, Kyle's last message, the diner with the waitress named Jean. Except in these replays, the people around me looked at the camera. They looked through the screen, at me, as if they knew they were being watched, as if they were acting. I watched myself cry, panic, scream. And behind all of it, I saw figures, always at the edge of the frame. Blurred. Watching. The next screen loaded, with a question. Ready to assign moderator 4. And beside it, a list of names. New users, fresh accounts, some barely an hour old. One of them was highlighted. A name I recognized. A follower from the subreddit. Someone who used to comment under my stories. Someone I had replied to. Friendly. Casual. I stared at the name and realized what this was. I was being asked to choose, to pass it on, to hand off the chain like a virus looking for a new cell. And in that moment I realized the final horror. This was always the job of Moderator 3. Not to run, not to survive. To continue the cycle. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to destroy the system from the inside. But there was no option for no. Just select or auto-assign. My hands moved on their own. My finger hovered over the name. I could feel the person on the other side. I don't know how, but I could. They were curious, awake, online, just like I had been, just like
Andrea, just like Kyle, and now just like me.
I whispered, "I'm sorry," as the selection clicked itself. A soft beep followed, and then the screen went dark. The lights in the room flickered. The monitor shut off. The hard drive spun down. Silence filled the air like water filling a glass. I stood slowly, unsure of what I'd done, but certain it couldn't be undone. The paper on the chair had changed. Now it read, Moderator 4, activated. Moderator 3, logged out. No fanfare. No ceremony. Just a soft closing of a file. I was no longer being hunted. I was no longer watched. I was part of the archive now, and I understood what the old woman meant. There's no going back after 6. I had finished my 6th upload. The story was complete. As I left the building, the world around me began to shift. Roads appeared where none had been. The trees gained color again. The air warmed. It looked normal. But I knew better. This wasn't the world I left behind, it was a copy. A skin. Something close enough to pass as real. A cage shaped like freedom. A story shaped like life. I was allowed to live in it, but only because I'd played my part. Because I'd pulled the next name. Because the process needed to continue. I got back in the car, started driving. No destination. But now the radio worked. Music played. The clock moved like it should. My face looked normal in the mirror again. But every once in a while, when I blink, I see a flicker of something behind my reflection. Watching, waiting, and the typing starts again. Just for a second. Like a reminder. You may be out, but you're never free. I tried to go home, not because I believed everything was over, but because I needed to see if any part of my old life still existed. I drove back to my apartment complex. Same building, same cracked sidewalk, same burnt-out porch light. But it felt smaller somehow, like the walls had shrunk inward since I'd been gone. I stood in the parking lot for a long time, holding the keys, trying to remember which number was mine. When I finally stepped inside, nothing was out of place. And yet, everything was wrong. The couch was where I left it. The dishes still in the sink. Even the mug from that last morning before it all began. But the air was too still. The lights flickered in a rhythm I couldn't ignore. Off. On. Off. On. 4 seconds each, like breathing. And then I noticed the walls. At first glance, normal. Beige. Bare. But when I looked closer, I saw it. Fine. Hairline cracks forming shapes. Letters, words, carved by something too patient to rush. Welcome back, Moderator 3. Followed by dozens of lines beneath it, each one stamped with dates. My dates. The nights I posted. The nights I disappeared. I walked into the bedroom. My computer was gone, desk empty. But on the bed there was a manila envelope. No writing, no address. Just thick with corners worn soft. I opened it slowly. Inside were photographs, dozens, all of me. Sleeping, walking, sitting at the diner. At Andrea's place, in the woods. Each one from a slightly different angle, a slightly different moment. Someone had been following me since the start, watching every moment I thought was mine. Some photos were printed on receipt paper, others on Photolab cardstock, but the worst ones were still warm, I dropped the envelope and ran to the bathroom. I needed to look at myself, to see if I still was myself. I turned on the light and stared into the mirror. The face that looked back was mine, but off. Too symmetrical. No tired crease beneath the right eye. No freckle under my lip. My left eye twitched, and the right one twitched with it, half a second later. Like it was learning, mimicking, practicing. I didn't blink. I didn't move. And neither did the reflection. We just stared at each other. Then it smiled. I stepped back, heart hammering. The light above me flickered 3 times, then went out. The mirror turned black. Not a reflection, just a screen, now. And text appeared, 1 line at a time. Moderator 3, residual detected. Then, upload failed, retrying. My knees buckled. I dropped to the floor. I thought I was out, I thought it was done, but now I realized the truth. I had followed the rules, passed it on, logged out. But something in me didn't let go. Some part had resisted, and the archive knew. It was trying again. I crawled out of the room, breath shallow. In the hallway, the walls buzzed like insects. I grabbed my coat, my keys, and bolted. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to move. But the world outside had shifted again. The street was longer than before. My car was gone. The trees on the sidewalk now stood perfectly still. No wind, no birds. Just silence. Then, a high-pitched tone filled the air, like a modem from the early internet days. My ears screamed with it. It wasn't sound. It was a signal. And it was calling. Something. A nearby phone booth rang. Who still has phone booths? Who still uses them? But it rang 3 times, then stopped, then again. On the 4th ring, I stepped inside, lifted the receiver. Silence, then typing. On the other end, slow, deliberate. I listened, frozen as the sound spelled out 1 word. Letter by letter. Y-O-U. Then the line clicked. Dead. And a new photo slid out of the coin return. A Polaroid. My face. Right now, in the booth, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. Taken from the street, I turned around. Empty sidewalk. No one. No camera. Just the echo of the tone and the feel of breath on my neck that wasn't mine. I ran again. My legs barely held me. Every shadow looked like it could reach out and grab me. The windows of passing buildings were full of static, like every TV was tuned to the same signal. Every store sign flickered in rhythm. Off, on, 4 seconds. Like breathing, like waiting, like it was counting down. I ducked into an alley, slid behind a dumpster, tried to catch my breath. And in the dark, I saw it. A glowing red dot. Small. Blinking. A camera. I ripped it from the wall, crushed it with my foot. But when I looked up, the alley was full of them. Red eyes blinking from every corner, every crack in the brick. I was surrounded. Watched from every angle. I collapsed to my knees. There was nowhere left to run. No thread left to pull. And in that moment, a quiet voice whispered inside me. It wasn't done with you. It never was. I don't remember standing up. I just remember walking, pulled forward like a puppet, feet dragging, through streets that no longer had meaning. The blinking lights above me slowed their rhythm, syncing with my heartbeat. Off. On. Off. On. I wasn't even sure I was breathing anymore. Just moving. Obeying. Like some last part of me had been hollowed out to make room for it. Somewhere, between buildings that looked familiar but weren't, I saw the door. The same one from the archive room. A square slab of steel with no handle, no frame, it just was. I stepped through it without touching anything. It didn't open. It simply accepted me. And inside was nothing. No floor, no ceiling. Just space. White, endless, humming with static. In the center, a single terminal pulsed like a heartbeat. I walked to it, sat, and there, waiting for me, was the final prompt. Ready to commit final post? I don't remember typing. My fingers moved like they'd done it before, like they'd always done it. The words spilled out of me. Memories, thoughts, emotions, coded into lines that didn't make sense but felt true. Then the screen said, "Voice confirmation required." A microphone rose from the surface, waiting. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked again. I forced out a whisper, "Yes." The machine responded, "Error. Voice recognition failed. User corrupted." Then, after a pause, "Proceeding anyway." And just like that, the light around me dimmed. Images burst across the white. Faces I'd seen, places I'd been, flashes of other moderators, other victims. Andrea's last message, Kyle's deleted account, the man in the chair from the first video, and then my reflection. Except it wasn't me anymore. It wore my face like a costume, smiling too wide, eyes too still. It leaned close to the screen, then typed, "Thank you for watching." My chest seized. My fingers pulled away, but it was too late. The post went live, and with it I felt something peel off me like skin after too much sun. Something essential tore free. The next thing I knew, I was on the ground outside, cold pavement beneath me. Cars passed like nothing was wrong. Pedestrians moved around me like I wasn't even there. I stood up, dazed. My clothes were the same, but my body felt empty, lighter. Not in the good way, in the missing way, like someone had scooped out my core and left me to function on default settings. I reached into my pocket. No wallet, no ID, no phone, just a piece of paper, folded once. On it, in blocky typewritten font, "Moderator 4 has accepted the terms. You are released." I crumpled the paper, heart sinking. Somewhere out there, someone else had clicked the wrong thread. Someone else had followed the wrong link, answered the wrong message, read the wrong story. I should have warned them. I tried. But the truth is, that's how it spreads. Not through code, not through viruses, through stories. Shared, watched, read. It doesn't need networks anymore. It lives in the telling, in the remembering. And now, in you. You finished the story. You saw it through, and now you're carrying it. Maybe you're just curious. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're telling yourself it's fiction. That's what I thought too. Right before the typing started. Right before the dreams. Right before the mirror began smiling back. So if your screen glitches, if your clock resets at 3:17 a.m., if you hear typing in a quiet room, don't reply to it. Don't follow the thread. Don't check the final post. And whatever you do, don't become moderator 5. Love the story? Show us with a like, hit that subscribe button, and share your scariest idea in the comments. And don't forget to tell us the time and where you're listening from. We want to know where the fear is spreading. You ever stumble on something online that you wish you could burn out of your brain? Something that doesn't just shake you, but clings to your bones, whispering to you even when you close your laptop and walk away? That's what happened to me. I thought I was just browsing, just scrolling past weird corners of the internet like I always did late at night. But this wasn't just a strange sight or a freaky video. This was a window I never should have opened. Because what I saw wasn't just disturbing, it was personal. One of the victims. She looked exactly like me. Same eyes, same hair, same birthmark on the neck. And when she screamed, I swear I felt it in my own throat. It started on a Tuesday night, sometime past midnight. I was sitting in my dorm room, buried under a pile of open tabs and cold coffee. Finals week always did something to my brain. It made me restless. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, so I'd scroll. You know, weird forums, abandoned YouTube channels, pages that looked like they hadn't been touched since 2007. Most of it was just junk. But then I clicked something that didn't have a name, just a link posted in a thread titled Real Ones Only. No comments, no upvotes, just a link. I clicked it without thinking. The screen went black for a second. Then, a loading bar appeared, glitchy and flickering like it was barely holding together. When it hit 100%, the screen opened into what looked like a live stream. Except there was no chat, no usernames, no viewer count. Just a dark room with red lighting, like a single bulb behind a thick red curtain. At first, I couldn't see anything else. Then shadows started to move. 4 figures stepped into the frame, all wearing porcelain masks, the kind that cover the whole face. Each had a different symbol painted in black on the forehead, an eye, a flame, a cross, and something that looked like a noose. They didn't speak. They just stood there, staring into the camera. Then someone else was dragged into frame. 5th person. This one wasn't masked. She was tied to a chair, mouth gagged, eyes wide open with terror. My breath caught in my chest. Because the more I looked at her, the more my stomach twisted. Her face, it wasn't just similar. It was mine, identical. Same shoulder-length hair, same curve to the chin, same faint scar above the eyebrow from when I fell off my bike as a kid. It was like looking in a mirror smeared with blood. I froze. I didn't even blink. They started reenacting a crime. Not just any crime. One that had actually happened in our town 3 years ago. I recognized the details. A girl had gone missing after a house party, and weeks later her body was found in the woods. It was ruled a homicide, but the police never caught anyone. I remembered reading about it in the student newspaper, and now these masked freaks were reenacting it, step by step, beat for beat. Only this time, it was my face on the victim. I slammed my laptop shut. My heart was punching the inside of my chest, and I had to remind myself to breathe. For a second, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe I was too tired. Or maybe I clicked on some kind of AI-generated horror video. But I knew deep down that wasn't the case. There was something too real about it, too raw. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat up, phone in hand, refreshing every forum I could think of, trying to find that link again. But it was gone. Just disappeared like it had never existed in the first place. The next morning, I skipped class and went straight to the campus library. I pulled up the case file on the girl who was killed. Her name was Rachel Lint. I stared at her photo for a long time. She didn't look like me, not even close. So why use my face? Why act out her death, but with someone who looked like me instead? I kept digging, looking for patterns, anything. And then I found a post on an old message board, dated only a month before Rachel's death. It mentioned something called the Red Veil. The poster said it was a stream you weren't supposed to watch unless you wanted to become part of the script. That was the exact phrase, become part of the script. That's when I knew this wasn't just some creepy corner of the web. This was a performance, and they were casting new roles. I tried to forget about it, I really did. I told myself it was some elaborate prank, maybe even a deep fake using my social media photos. But I couldn't stop thinking about the symbols on those masks, the way the camera lingered just a second too long on me before cutting to black. I became jumpy. Every knock on the door made my skin crawl. I started checking behind me every time I walked across campus, and then it got worse. One night I found an envelope taped to my dorm door. No name. Inside was a single photo. A printed still from the stream. It was me in that chair, gagged, eyes wide. But this one was different. The background was my actual dorm room. I almost threw up. I rushed inside, tore the place apart, looking for hidden cameras, microphones, anything. But I found nothing. I went to campus security, showed them the photo, but they thought it was just a prank, said it was probably Photoshop, and told me to lock my doors. That night I called my mom and told her I wanted to come home for a while. I didn't say why. I didn't want to scare her. She was already worried about me. Said I sounded tired. I just said I needed a break. Back at home, things felt quieter, safer, but only for a little while. Because one night, I got a text from an unknown number. No message, just a link. It looked just like the one from the forum. I didn't click it. I blocked the number. But I couldn't stop shaking. Somehow they'd found my number. I didn't even want to think about what else they had. My location? My family's address? I stayed up all night watching the hallway through the peephole, clutching a baseball bat my dad had left behind years ago. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. My parents thought I was sick. Then came the second envelope. This time, it was waiting in our mailbox. No postage. Hand-delivered. Inside was another photo. Another still from the stream. But this one wasn't of me. It was of my mom. In the same red-lit room, tied to the same chair, and standing behind her were the four masked figures motionless, staring at the camera like they were daring me to look away. I dropped the photo on the floor. My hands were ice cold. My mind couldn't even put words together. That's when I knew I couldn't keep running. They weren't just reenacting crimes anymore, they were writing new ones. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I just stood there in the kitchen, staring down at the photo lying face up on the tiled floor. My mom's face was pale, her eyes full of the same raw fear I saw in the girl who looked like me. She didn't know she was being watched, or recorded, or worse. I picked up the photo with shaking hands and ran to her room. She was still asleep, safe, breathing softly. I didn't wake her. I just sat outside her door all night holding the bat like it could actually protect us from something that made its way through cameras and screens. The next morning I lied and said I had a stomach bug. I needed her to stay home. I couldn't let her go to work, not when I had no idea how close these people really were. I called the police again, this time in my hometown. I told them about the photos, the stream, the unknown number. They said they'd send someone to check in. That afternoon, an officer came by, asked me a few questions, but the second I mentioned the dark web, he lost interest. Said I was probably being catfished or pranked by someone from school. He took the photo, made a copy, and told me not to watch anything that made me uncomfortable. That was it. That was all they did. That night, I sat at my old desk and opened my laptop. I didn't want to, but I had to. I had to know if there was another stream. I went back to the same forums, but nothing was there. Nothing new. I scrolled for hours, getting deeper and deeper into threads that didn't even have names. Then finally, buried in the reply chain of a dead user's post, I saw it. A string of numbers and letters, an onion link. My stomach dropped. I copied it, opened my Tor browser, and waited. It loaded slower this time. Much slower. The screen stayed black for what felt like minutes. Then, without warning, the red glow returned. Same room, same curtain, same figures in masks. But this time, they weren't standing still. They were pacing in a circle around the empty chair in the center. The camera was closer, like it had moved forward a few feet. I leaned in. Something was different. The sound. There was breathing. Not from the masked ones, but from whoever was holding the camera. It was uneven, shaky, like whoever was filming this was scared too. I heard a sniffle, then a whisper. "She's watching." That's when I slammed my laptop shut again. I couldn't breathe. I jumped back from the desk, like the thing was about to burn me. I turned off all the lights in my room and sat in the corner with my back to the wall. My phone buzzed. It was a text, same number as before. Just 3 words. "You're next, Claire." I never gave them my name. I checked every account. My social media was private, my number unlisted. And yet, they knew. I deleted the message, then blocked the number again. I thought about telling my mom. But what would I say? That I was being hunted by a stream that shouldn't exist? That masked strangers were dragging our faces into their sick performances? No. She'd call it a breakdown. And maybe that's what it was. But I couldn't take the chance. I had to end it before they touched her. So the next morning I made a plan. I reached out to someone I barely knew. This guy named Danny, who used to run a Discord server for creepy internet stuff. We'd spoken once or twice during a freshman mixer, and I remembered he claimed to know how to trace IPs and map out the dark web, whatever that meant. I messaged him anonymously, pretending to be a horror content creator doing research. He took the bait. Within an hour, I had him looking into the stream. I gave him the link. I told him not to click it, just trace the connection. He said he'd try. A few hours later, he messaged me one sentence that made my skin crawl. "This isn't a stream." I asked him what that meant. He said it was something else, something that didn't follow the same rules. Said the site kept bouncing between dead relays, always leading back to a single server that wasn't showing up on any map. Like it wasn't online, but it still was. He told me the name of the server, Veilhost. I asked him if he could access it. He went quiet. 15 minutes later, he wrote, "Don't contact me again." Then he blocked me. That was it. Gone. Like he never existed. I checked the Discord. His entire profile was wiped clean. All his posts, all his messages. Nothing left. Like he'd been erased. The next envelope came the next day. This time it was on my pillow. I had locked the doors, the windows. I didn't leave my room. But somehow someone had placed it there anyway. I almost didn't want to open it. I thought it might be a threat, but inside there was only one thing, a USB drive. Just black, no label. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't want to plug it in, but something in me needed to know. I grabbed my old laptop, one that wasn't connected to the internet, and opened the file. There was a single video, no title, no timestamp, just static at first. Then the same red glow, the same masked figures. This time, they were in a different room. A kitchen. My kitchen. I recognized the fridge, the peeling wallpaper, the clock above the sink. And then I saw her, me, standing there with my back turned to the camera. She turned around, looked straight into the lens, and then she spoke. Not screamed, not cried. Spoke. I shouldn't have watched. The video cut out. I don't remember dropping the laptop, but I must have. Because the next thing I knew, it was lying on the floor and my mom was pounding on my door asking if I was okay. I told her I just tripped, that I spilled water. She didn't believe me, but she let it go. I sat there in silence, thinking about what I saw. That wasn't just footage, that was a message, a warning, but from who? Me? I stayed up again, reading every word of every old post I could find about the Red Veil. Most were nonsense, but one stood out. A reply buried in a thread from 5 years ago. They don't film you, they take you. The videos are just echoes. Stay offline, burn your tech, don't let them finish the script. That word again. Script. So I started to wonder, what if they weren't just watching me? What if they were rehearsing, preparing? What if every stream was a dry run for something they planned to do later? For real. The reenactments, the matches to old crimes, and what if those weren't just copies? What if those were instructions, blueprints, and what if the next blueprint is my house? I didn't touch my laptop after that. I powered it down, pulled the battery out, and wrapped the whole thing in aluminum foil like I'd seen people do in conspiracy videos. It felt insane, but I didn't care anymore. The rules had stopped making sense. Something was watching me, through screens, or maybe through something deeper than screens. And if the message was to stay offline, then maybe I had already crossed the point of no return. Maybe I was already part of their script and everything else was just stalling. The house didn't feel safe anymore. I started noticing little things that weren't right. Closet doors cracked open that I know I closed. The kitchen light flickering even after the bulb had been replaced. Our dog Tucker started whining at the basement door at exactly 3:33 a.m. Not barking, whining. Like something was moving down there. I tried to tell my mom it was just his age, or maybe a raccoon got in. But we both knew better. One night I sat on the stairs with a flashlight and waited. At 3:32 I heard a soft creak. Not from the basement, from the attic. I didn't go up. Not that night. I just sat frozen on the stairs, holding the flashlight like it would actually do something if those masked people suddenly dropped out of the crawl space. I stayed there until morning light crept through the window. My mom found me and started crying. Said I looked like I hadn't slept in days. She was right. I hadn't. That's when I decided to tell her the truth, or at least enough of it. I told her someone was threatening me. I showed her the envelope with her photo. Her face went white. I didn't even have to convince her. I saw the shift in her eyes. That primal, maternal fear. We packed bags and drove 3 hours to stay with my aunt. No warning. No goodbye. I turned my phone off completely. Left my laptop behind. If we were being watched, I wanted to break their line of sight. Aunt Lydia lived on the edge of nowhere. One of those places where the Wi-Fi barely reached past the porch and cell service was a rumor. It felt safer, quieter. But even out there, the silence didn't last. On the second night, I heard something outside the window. Not footsteps, dragging, like someone pulling something heavy across the gravel driveway. I peeked out through the curtain. Nothing. Just trees. Moonlight. But when I looked down at the ground right below the window, I saw it. A red ribbon, tied in a loop. No wind, no movement. Just that single piece of fabric, placed like a marker. I didn't wake my mom this time. I didn't say a word. I just closed the curtain and sat in the chair with a kitchen knife in my lap. Morning came, and the ribbon was gone. I started dreaming about them. The masked figures. In my sleep, I'd see them standing in the corners of rooms that didn't exist, watching but never speaking. I'd wake up sweating, sometimes crying. My mom thought I was breaking down. Maybe I was. But the worst part wasn't the dreams. It was waking up to find things moved. A glass of water left on my nightstand when I hadn't poured one. The photo of my mom, the one from the envelope, placed under my pillow. They were close. Closer than ever. That's when I found the phone. It wasn't mine. I had turned mine off and stuffed it into a drawer. But this one was lying under my bed. A burner phone, probably prepaid. Old. No lock screen. One contact in it, named just R. One. Message almost ready. I dropped the phone like it burned me. Who put this here? When? I hadn't let it out of my sight. Neither had my mom. I tore through my aunt's house looking for hidden cameras, other devices, anything. Nothing. And then, like clockwork, I heard it. That dragging sound again. This time I didn't run. I didn't call for help. I grabbed the phone, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain aside. There were 4 of them, standing at the edge of the tree line, wearing the same porcelain masks. Not moving, not saying anything, just watching. One of them, tall, thin, with the noose symbol on his mask, raised a hand and pointed upward. I turned slowly. The attic. My skin prickled. My chest felt like it might crack open from the inside. I wanted to run, to grab my mom and get in the car and drive until the gas tank hit empty. But something inside me said no. If I ran, they'd follow. If I fled again, they'd just drag someone else into it. So I climbed the stairs. The attic, door groaned open. It smelled like dust and rotting wood. My flashlight flickered as I stepped onto the boards. At first I didn't see anything. Just boxes, old furniture, forgotten memories. And then I noticed the mirror. It wasn't ours. It was tall, warped at the edges, and covered with a dirty red cloth. I don't know why I did it, but I pulled the cloth off, and I saw myself. But not me. Not really. The girl in the reflection had my face, but she didn't move when I did. She was tied to a chair, same as before. Mouth gagged, tears running down her cheeks. Behind her, the 4 masked figures closed in. Then the mirror shattered. I stumbled back, cutting my hand on the glass. My flashlight hit the floor and rolled away. That's when I heard the voice. A whisper, coming from inside my own head. Don't forget your lines. I ran. I ran down the stairs, screaming for my mom, blood dripping from my hand. She met me in the hallway, panicked, grabbing towels, asking what happened. I told her the truth this time. Everything, from the stream to the mirror, to the message in my mind. She didn't say I was crazy. She didn't roll her eyes. She just held me. That was somehow worse, because it meant she believed me. We left that night, packed the car, didn't tell my aunt, didn't even leave a note. We drove until the sun came up. A motel outside a truck stop, 1 room, 2 beds, a single bolt on the door. I didn't sleep. I watched the door all night, and when morning came, there was a note slid under it. In handwriting that looked exactly like mine. The script is almost over, come back to the stage. I didn't tell her about the note. I wanted to, but what would I even say? That something out there could copy my handwriting? That I was being stalked not just by people, but by some unseen script I couldn't escape? Her face already looked older, worn from worry and fear. She kept trying to be strong for me, but I could see her cracking in the edges. So I smiled and said everything was fine. I flushed the note down the toilet and lied through my teeth. That's what they wanted, wasn't it? To keep me off balance, to see how long I'd pretend it was all still under my control. But it wasn't. That night, I woke up to the sound of static. My motel room didn't have a TV. Neither did my phone. But the sound filled the air, buzzing like a wasp right near your ear. I looked around, heart pounding until my eyes landed on the motel mirror. It was glowing red. Not brightly, just enough to paint the room in that same sickly tint I'd seen in every one of their videos. I got up slowly, legs heavy like they were made of stone. I didn't want to go near it. Every part of my body screamed to look away, but I couldn't stop. The surface of the mirror wasn't solid anymore. It looked like water, rippling, shifting. Then a face pushed through. Mine. Not tied up this time, not crying, just smiling. And then she spoke. "You're already there." The surface snapped back to glass and I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet and slamming into the nightstand. My mom shot up in bed, confused and panicked. I didn't even know what to say. I couldn't breathe. I just kept staring at the mirror like it was going to open again and pull me through. We left that morning. Again. Another motel. Another town. No plans, no direction. I thought maybe if we just kept moving, we'd slip out of their reach. But the script doesn't work like that. I realized it when I saw the man in the diner. We stopped for coffee somewhere off Route 6. Nothing special, just a sleepy place with dusty booths and faded menus. And that's where I saw him, one of the masked figures, not wearing the mask, just sitting alone, drinking from a chipped mug, looking dead ahead. But I knew. The new symbol was tattooed faintly on his temple. I could feel his eyes, even when I wasn't looking directly at him. And when he stood up to leave, he didn't glance at me. He just whispered to the waitress, "She's behind schedule." My blood went cold. I turned to look. He was gone. No car pulled out of the lot. No footsteps. Just gone. I told my mom we had to leave. Now. We paid in cash and ran to the car. I didn't say a word until we hit the freeway. Then for the first time I said it out loud. They're not watching me anymore. They're watching us. And then I said the part that made her go silent. I think I've already done it. Because it hit me then. The things I was seeing, the streams, the photos, the mirror. What if they weren't premonitions? What if they were memories? What if the script wasn't predicting what was going to happen, but showing me what had already happened, and I just hadn't caught up to it yet? That idea haunted me, ate at me. Every time I blinked, I saw flashes, my own face screaming, my mom tied to the chair, the figures closing in. Scenes from the stream that hadn't played out yet, but somehow already had. We kept driving, town to town. Days passed in a blur. I stopped looking in mirrors. I taped over the camera on my mom's phone and kept her close at all times. I stopped using my name. I didn't even write it down. But no matter where we went, the red ribbons followed in parking lots, on motel pillows, inside a gas station bathroom stall once. Each one tied the exact same way. No note, no blood, just red, like a silent flag waving us toward the end. One night, after nearly a week on the road, I broke. I couldn't take it anymore. I sat on the edge of the motel bathtub and stared at my reflection in the faucet. I whispered out loud, "What do you want from me?" And my reflection moved. Not me, just the reflection. Her eyes rolled back, Her lips stretched too wide, into a grin, and she said, "The final scene," I screamed. My mom rushed in, but it was gone, just metal and water. That was the last straw. I told her to take the car and go to my uncle's cabin, miles off grid, no electricity, no tech. I'd meet her there. I lied, again. I told her I had to go back to campus, that there were files I needed to give the police. I just didn't want her involved anymore. I knew where the end of the script was. I could feel it like a heartbeat under my skin. I had to go back. I returned to my dorm. It was dark, empty, smelled like old dust and plastic. I unlocked the door and found my old laptop still on the desk, and taped to the screen. A red ribbon. No note. No envelope. Just the ribbon tied neatly, like a bow waiting to be undone. My hands were shaking as I pulled it free. The screen lit up on its own. The red veil stream was already open, already playing. Only this time there was no delay, no buffering. The masked figures were standing in my dorm room. This dorm room, and in the center, tied to the chair, was me. I stared at the screen as the girl looked up. She blinked slowly, then mouthed something, 3 words. "Watch it end." The door behind me creaked open. I didn't turn around. My body refused to move, like my bones had turned to stone and my muscles were glued in place. The door behind me let out one long, slow groan, the kind of sound you feel in your teeth, and every second that passed was louder than the last. My eyes stayed locked on the laptop screen, and even though I didn't want to see it, I couldn't look away. On the stream, the girl in the chair, me, began to tremble. She looked up, and the camera panned slowly to the side. A figure stepped forward, wearing the mask with the black flame. He was holding something in his hand. A knife. Not clean, not sharp, jagged, like it had been broken off a larger blade. I finally managed to stand. I didn't run, didn't scream. I just backed away from the desk, heart jackhammering in my chest, until my back hit the cold wall. My breath came in shallow, desperate gasps. I could hear someone moving in the room behind me, feet shuffling lightly on the carpet, too slow, too careful. I whispered, "Please don't," even though I didn't know who or what I was talking to. Maybe the person behind me, maybe the thing behind the stream, maybe both. The sound stopped. Silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that makes your ears ring and your skin itch. Then the voice came, soft and steady, like someone was sitting inches from my ear. "You already said yes." The light in the room flickered, and I dropped to my knees. I don't know why. I wasn't pushed. I wasn't grabbed. I just dropped. Like something inside me gave up. I heard the desk chair slide. Back felt movement pass beside me and saw a shadow fall over the laptop screen. The camera on the stream shifted again. Now it was looking at a hallway. My hallway. The door in the stream was open, and behind it was me. A perfect copy, walking slowly into the room, face blank, eyes hollow. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. But she walked straight toward the girl in the chair like she knew every step before it happened. I stood back up, screaming this time, truly screaming, not caring who heard. I ran to the door, flung it open, but no one was there. The hallway was empty, but I swear I could still hear footsteps, delayed, like an echo trying to catch up. I slammed the door shut and locked it. The stream was still running. My copy, my other self, was now behind the girl in the chair. She reached out slowly, gently, and placed both hands on her shoulders. The camera zoomed in, and then the screen went black. I ripped the laptop off the desk and threw it against the wall. Sparks flew, and the screen cracked in half. But it didn't matter. I knew the damage was already done. That stream wasn't just a video. It was a doorway, a rehearsal, a promise. And I'd watched too long. I'd let it in. The knock came just after midnight. 3 soft taps on the dorm door. Not urgent, not loud, just expected. I froze. My hand went to the bat I'd stashed behind the dresser. I didn't speak. I didn't move. The knocking came again. 3 more taps. Then a voice. "Claire, you're late." That was it. Just those 3 words. Calm, unbothered, like I was being reminded about an appointment. I didn't answer. I sat on the floor, gripping the bat until my knuckles went white. Minutes passed. Then an envelope slid under the door. I waited, watched the shadow behind the crack. Nothing else came. Eventually, I crawled forward and picked it up. Same kind of envelope, same texture. Inside, another photo. This time, it wasn't a still from the stream. It was a photo of me, sleeping, in my bed, taken from the ceiling. I couldn't even scream. My throat locked up. I dropped the photo like it was coated in acid. I ran out of the dorm, barefoot. No phone, no bag, just ran. All the way to the library, where I hid behind the reference shelves like a scared kid. I stayed there until morning. The lights flickered once around 4 a.m. I held my breath, but no one came. When the sun rose, I went to the police. Again. I told them someone had broken into my room, taken photos. They walked me back, checked the place. No signs of entry, no fingerprints, no camera mounts. They didn't believe me. One of them even asked if I'd been watching too many horror movies. They left, and I was alone again. That night I started writing this all down. Every detail, every red ribbon, every masked figure. I don't know if I'm trying to warn someone or if I'm just trying to remember before they rewrite it, because I feel it now, deep in my stomach. Something's coming. They're not just reenacting anymore. They're finishing what they started. And the scariest part, I don't know if I'm the victim or the star. I didn't go back to the dorm after that. I couldn't. Even the thought of stepping through that doorway made my skin crawl. I spent the next few nights sleeping in the corner of a 24-hour laundromat downtown, tucked behind a row of unused dryers where no cameras could see me. I kept my back to the wall and my eyes on the door. No tech, no phone, no laptop, not even a watch. I'd learned by now that anything with a screen was a doorway for them, and I wasn't giving them another one. But even then, in that cold, flickering place filled with the hum of machines, I still didn't feel safe. Because the worst part wasn't being followed. It was knowing that they didn't have to follow me anymore. They were already ahead. The dreams were back, worse than before. I'd close my eyes and I'd see that red-lit room again, but now it was fuller, more detailed. The camera would pan slowly around a stage. Yes, a stage. And each masked figure stood at their mark, waiting. And there was always a figure missing. One empty space. A spotlight on the floor, waiting for me to step into it. In every dream, I watched myself from the audience, frozen in the dark as the girl who looked like me took her place, over and over. The worst part? Every night, she stepped closer to the spotlight, and every night, I did nothing to stop her. On the 4th night, I woke up to a man sitting across from me. Not masked, not moving, just staring. Thin, older, with deep scars across his knuckles. At first I thought he was homeless, but then he spoke. "You've seen it." It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. "They don't show it to many," he said. "Only the ones with the right eyes. You watch too long. That's how they find you." I tried to get up, to walk away, but he held out his hand and placed something on the seat beside me. A piece of paper, crumpled, water damaged. It was a page from a script, typed, labeled, Scene 5, Claire's Realization. I felt the blood drain from my face. The lines on the page were word for word what I'd said 2 nights ago in my dorm, when I saw the mirror ripple. "What do you want from me?" Right there in black ink. I looked up. He was gone. I ran out into the street, nearly got hit by a car, and didn't stop running until I reached the edge of campus. Something broke in me then. A calm, Dangerous kind of break. The kind that happens when you realize you're not living your life anymore. You're acting it. So I made a choice. If this was a script, then I had to find the ending myself. I went to the one place I'd sworn I'd never return to, my dorm. I waited until midnight. The halls were empty. I didn't bring anything with me. No phone, no bag, just a crowbar I'd taken from the maintenance shed. When I opened the door, everything was exactly the same. The bed made, the cracked laptop still on the floor. And on the desk, one final envelope. This one was red. Inside was a single photo. It wasn't a still from the stream. It wasn't me in the chair. It was the masked figures, unmasked. Their faces were blurred, distorted beyond recognition, except for one. A woman. Pale skin. Black hair. Eyes just like mine. It was my mother. I dropped the photo and fell backward into the chair. My thoughts were a tangled knot of disbelief, horror, and confusion. How? Why? She couldn't be involved. She'd been scared, she'd cried with me, ran with me. But then I remembered the mirror, the video on the USB, the photo taken from the ceiling. She was always calm afterward. Too calm. Never truly surprised. The door creaked again. I didn't move. She stepped inside slowly. No mask, just her face. My mother. But her expression was blank now. Hollow. I didn't want you to find out this way, she said. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even cry. They needed someone for the final performance, she said, her voice soft, almost sad. It had to be someone people would believe, someone who could bring it full circle. My vision blurred. I backed away. You're one of them? She looked at me, truly looked at me, and then nodded. I was once, then I left. But no one ever really leaves the red veil. I shook my head. You sent me the photos? You followed me? No, she said. They did that. But I let them. In a long time ago, they asked for one more scene, one more star. I felt my knees go weak, my chest caved in. Why me? Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice never wavered. Because the audience already loves you. And behind her, stepping through the open doorway, came the 4 masked figures. One by one. They surrounded me in silence. No one moved. Then, the red light filled the room. I looked up and saw it. A camera, dangling from the ceiling. The lens focused. The red light blinked once, recording. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't a warning. It was the premiere. The light from the camera pulsed steadily, slow and deliberate, like a heartbeat. My heartbeat. Except mine was racing, crashing against my ribs like it wanted to break free from my body and run. The masked figures didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't flinch. They stood like statues around me, forming a circle of silence, with my mother, if I could still call her that, at its center. I stared at her, waiting for her face to crack, for the mask to slip and reveal it was all just a sick joke. But she didn't blink, didn't explain. She just whispered, "We're live," and stepped backward into the shadows. The red glow deepened and the walls around me began to shift, not physically but visually, melting like wax, peeling away layer by layer until the dorm room faded and something else took its place. A stage, not a metaphorical one, a real one. Black curtains, empty audience chairs stretching into the dark. It didn't make sense. I hadn't moved, but the space around me had changed. I was no longer in a room. I was in the performance. I turned in a slow circle, trying to catch my breath, trying to find an exit. There was none. Only the 4 masked figures who now stood at the 4 corners of the stage. And then I heard it. The sound of clapping. Slow. Distant. A single person. From the darkness beyond the lights, a figure stood and walked forward. A man dressed in a red suit, pale as death, with empty black eyes that didn't reflect anything at all. He had no mask. He didn't need one. He looked like someone who had never been born but had still aged all the same. His voice echoed through the air like it had a body of its own. "She has arrived," he said, stretching his arms wide. "The one we have written. The one we have watched." I stumbled back, knocking over a chair that hadn't been there a moment ago. My voice cracked as I spoke. "I didn't agree to this. I didn't say yes." The man smiled. "You watched. You stayed. You looked into the mirror. That is consent enough." The audience seats began to fill. Not with people. At least not people in the way you and I understand them. Shapes. Faces I recognized. The girl from the first video. Danny. The waitress from the diner. Even the scarred man from the laundromat. All of them sat in silence, eyes forward, mouths slightly parted, as if waiting to exhale. A voice boomed from above. The same voice from the first stream. The whisper that said she's watching, and then, scene 6. The transformation. The masked figures moved in unison, stepping closer, each holding something different. A ribbon, a script, a mirror shard, and a roll of black tape. I screamed and ran, but the stage had no edge. It went on forever, circling back around like a loop, and every time I thought I'd escaped, I ended up back at the center, back in the light. They caught me gently, not with force, with calm, with routine, like I'd rehearsed this with them 100 times. I kicked and thrashed and begged, but they didn't seem to hear me. They tied the ribbon around my throat. They taped the script to my chest. They pressed the mirror shard into my palm. And then one of them, the one with the eye symbol, reached up and removed their mask. I gasped. It was me. Not the reflection, not a twin. Me. Tired. Pale. Older. A version of myself that had already given up. She looked at me with such sadness, like I was the one who'd let her down. "You were always going to be here," she said. "You've always been here." And then she did the last thing I expected. She removed the mask from her own face and gently placed it over mine. Everything went dark. I felt it happen, like falling asleep with your eyes open. The crowd began to cheer. The lights pulsed red, again and again. And then, quiet. When I opened my eyes, I was alone. Back in my dorm room, everything looked normal. The walls, the bed, the window. Except now there was a mirror on the desk, the same one from the attic, and on the mirror, written in fogged glass, were 4 words. "Your scene is next," and the camera on my ceiling blinked red. Still live. Didn't touch the mirror. I didn't even move. I just sat there staring at those words as the red light above me blinked in a slow, patient rhythm. "Your scene is next." That phrase echoed inside my skull like a church bell. It didn't feel like a threat anymore. It felt like a fact. Unchangeable. Certain. Final. I wanted to scream. To smash the mirror again, to rip the camera from the ceiling and burn the room down just to see if the walls bled. But none of that would change what had already started. Deep down, I understood what was happening. The line between watching and being watched had disappeared. There was no difference now. No border. I wasn't just the girl on the screen. I was the stream. And the script was almost finished. I stood slowly, legs trembling like I'd been through a storm, and moved toward the mirror. My reflection blinked in sync with me. Same eyes. Same bloodied palm from the mirror shard they'd placed there. It still stung. Still felt real. Not a dream. Not a hallucination. I whispered under my breath, just to test if I still had control. What happens if I don't finish it? My reflection didn't answer, but behind me, in the glass, I saw them, the 4 masked figures, standing silently in the corners of my room. I spun around. Nothing. Empty. But in the mirror, they stood tall and waiting. I knew then. I wasn't going to escape. I'd never escaped. I left my dorm and walked the campus. Like a ghost, no one looked at me. Not the students, not the staff. It was like I'd become invisible. Or maybe I was already gone. I found myself back at the library, the place where I'd hidden behind the stacks that night. I walked in and headed for the lowest floor, the sub-basement where no one ever studied, where the air was thick and still. And there it was, a door I'd never noticed before, matte black, no handle, just a slit at the center and the faint outline of a mask etched into the surface. I approached it slowly, and without touching anything, the door opened. Behind it, red light, not flooding, not blinding, just enough to paint everything in that same quiet dread I'd come to know. I stepped through. The room on the other side wasn't part of the library. It couldn't be. The walls were velvet, the ceiling curved, arching into a spiral above me. At the center was a chair, and on it sat a script, my name printed on the cover in thick, black letters. Claire, final draft. I opened it. My hands trembled. The first page was blank, the second too, and then halfway through the lines appeared. Paragraphs of my life, word for word, conversations, memories, thoughts I never told anyone, and at the end, Scene 7, the surrender. A single line of dialogue. I understand now. I closed the script, and behind me, the man in the red suit appeared. Again, no footsteps, no shadow, just there. You made it, he said softly, like a teacher pleased with a student who finally followed the lesson. You've been trying so hard to run, but this isn't something you run from, it's something you join. I shook my head, but the energy in my body was gone. Why me? Because you watched, he said. You kept watching even when you should have looked away. That's all it takes. One pair of eyes, one soul to carry it forward. I stepped back, but the walls moved with me. The room grew tighter, warmer. My breath felt thick in my lungs. This is the moment, Claire, he said. The moment we've all waited for. You've played your part beautifully. Now you just need to say the line. I clutched the script tighter, looked down at the words. I understand now. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to give them the ending. But the words burned in my throat, scratching to get out. And when I finally said them quietly, barely above a whisper, the red light dimmed. The man smiled. The masked figures stepped forward, and I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a familiar place, not my dorm, not the stage. A room, bare, white, sterile, a camera mounted in the corner, a mirror on the wall, and across from me, a girl, pale, tired, shaking. She stared at me, mouth quivering. I knew that look, the disbelief, the fear. She whispered, I saw the stream. And then I understood. It wasn't over. It never ends. I was the welcome. She looked just like I did when all this began, wide-eyed, sleepless, hollow in the way only people who've seen something they can't explain ever become. Her voice was small, like she was afraid speaking too loud might wake something up. I saw it, she said again, as if saying it twice would make me believe her. But I did believe her, because I could see it. The red veil had already touched her, the way her hands trembled even when she tried to hide them, the way her eyes never settled in one place for too long. I knew that fear. I wore it like a second skin once. I stood, slowly, feeling the weight of my limbs like I was learning to move again. The mirror behind her glowed faintly. The camera in the corner clicked softly, once every few seconds. Watching, recording, always. What did you see? I asked her, though I already knew the answer. She blinked fast, looked down at her hands, then back at me. The stream, the girl, the masks, and the voice said, she looked like me. I didn't react. I couldn't. Because this was the cycle. This was how it always started. And now, I was the first face they'd see. She stepped closer, hesitant like I was both her lifeline and her last warning. Is it real? Am I in danger? I opened my mouth to say yes, to scream run while you still can. But no sound came out. My throat was sealed. My voice didn't belong to me anymore. I looked toward the mirror. The surface shimmered, and my reflection did something I hadn't. It smiled, just slightly. The girl looked too, and when she did, she gasped. I didn't smile. I felt my chest tighten. That had been me too, once, noticing the first crack, the first shift, realizing you weren't in control anymore. She reached into her pocket and pulled something out, a crumpled photo. I recognized it instantly. It was me, tied to the chair, the red room, the same still I'd seen all those nights ago. They sent me this, she whispered. I don't know who. There was no name, but I think it's supposed to be me. I think they made it look like me. I nodded slowly. That's how they pull you in. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't want to disappear. I just wanted to see what it was. I didn't know it would. She trailed off, but she didn't need to finish. Because I did know. The moment you watch, you become part of it. That stream, it's not just a recording. It's an infection, a casting call. You don't choose your role. They choose for you. And the deeper you look, the more real it becomes. I looked toward the camera. It blinked. Once. Twice. Then stayed red. The room around us started to flicker. The white walls peeled away into something darker. Velvet curtains slid down from the ceiling. The mirror pulsed red light pouring from its edges like it had been bleeding the whole time. The girl gasped. What's happening? What is this place? I stepped forward. I wanted to help her. I did. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop what had already started. She backed away. Is this real? I couldn't lie to her. So I said the only thing I could. You've been cast. The floor beneath us creaked. The lights above us dimmed. A slow applause rose in the background. Soft at first, then louder. Steady like dozens of hands clapping from behind the walls. I turned to the mirror again, and this time, there were 2 chairs reflected in it. One empty, one waiting. And behind them, the 4 masked figures standing perfectly still. The girl's voice trembled. I want to go home. You are home now, I said. Because that's the truth, isn't it? The red veil doesn't take you away. It becomes your home, your world. It turns your life into a story, your choices into lines, your fear into fuel for someone else's entertainment. I remembered the script now. The final scene. The surrender. The stage. The next victim. And the one who welcomes her. I looked at the girl one last time. She looked at me like I might save her. I didn't. I turned to the camera, and I smiled. The smile came easy. Too easy. It didn't feel like mine, but it fit my face perfectly. I stood in the red glow of the mirror, the masked figures behind me like stage hands waiting in the wings. The girl trembled in the center of the room, looking smaller than before. Her fingers curled around that photo of me as if it were her last anchor to something real. I wanted to tell her it wouldn't help, that I'd done the same. Clung to old proof, old logic, old memories. But once the stream touches you, reality doesn't owe you anything anymore. It rewrites itself, and you're just there to act it out. The walls shifted again, more rapidly now, glitching between dorm room and theater and back. One blink, and we were back in the white space. Another blink, and we stood on the stage again, that endless velvet platform with no edge. The girl clutched her ears, shaking her head, whispering no, no, no under her breath like it was a spell. But there was no spell to stop what was already in motion. Somewhere beyond the light, the man in the red suit began to speak again. Scene 10, he said. The offering. The masked figures moved, slow and silent, surrounding the Girl, the way they had once surrounded me. She tried to run, but the space folded inward like a maze that rebuilt itself with each step she took. She ran in circles. She screamed. But her voice didn't echo anymore. The air swallowed it up like a hungry mouth. I didn't stop them, because deep inside, I felt it. That creeping warmth in my chest, that understanding. The one I had feared for so long, the one I'd run from. This wasn't a curse. It was a passing of the role. It was my exit. She was the new lead. The girl stumbled and fell to her knees. The masked figure with the noose symbol stepped forward, placed a hand on her shoulder, and in that moment the red light pulsed brighter than ever. The mirror behind her flashed, and in its surface I didn't see her anymore. I saw myself again, but not me. Not quite. A version of me, sitting in the audience, clapping softly, eyes glowing, watching, just like all the others. The girl turned toward me, her face wet with tears. "Please," she whispered, "help me." I stepped forward, the stage creaking beneath my feet. I reached out and I handed her the mask. Porcelain, cold, painted with a flame. She looked down at it, then at me. And when she took it, the stage went dark. No lights, no camera, just the red glow fading into black and silence. I woke up in my bed. Sunlight filtered through the blinds. My dorm room looked normal, clean. The cracked laptop was gone, the mirror too. The air smelled of dust and mourning. For a moment I thought maybe I had dreamed the whole thing. Maybe I'd finally broken down under the pressure of it all and imagined every detail. But then I saw the envelope on my desk. Red. Unmarked. Inside was a photograph. Not of me this time. Of her, the new girl, sitting in the red-lit room. Tied to the chair, eyes wide, mouth gagged, and below the image, written in the corner in handwriting that now looked suspiciously like mine, Scene 1, the arrival. I set the photo down, sat back in my chair, and looked up at the tiny black camera lens. In the corner of the ceiling, it blinked. Once, then again. Still live, always live. Thanks for staying with us until the very end. If you enjoyed tonight's chilling tales, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that keep you up at night. Share your favorite part in the comments. We're always watching, and remember, at Nocturnal Narrative Studio, the night never truly ends.